evening. The first question, we're going to start off a little bit differently this time around. We're going to have a speed round. It's only four questions, so it's not a really long speed round. And it's on one of my favorite topics, and that is on legislative reform. So for these questions, I'm going to ask you to answer simply yes or no, and you will have an opportunity to expand on your answers on the second question. So you need to contain this right now to just yes or no. We did a coin toss in the beginning, and Frank, you're going to answer the first question. So the first question, what is your opinion of the legislative reforms recommended by the Bonus Gate Grand Jury? And the questions are specifically, do you support or oppose reducing the size of the legislature?
Support 110%.
John?
Yes.
Imposing term limits?
Support 110%.
John?
No.
Abolishing so-called walking around money or WAMs?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And eliminated per diems requiring members to prove actual expenses and submit receipts?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of our speed round. It was very speedy. And the second question on legislative reform, you've got 2 minutes to respond to this. John, you'll go first. Discuss your responses to the questions in the speed round and or offer other recommendations for legislative reform.
The Bonus Gate investigation actually revealed quite a few egregious violations of the public trust, and I had a chance to take a look at their findings and actually agreed with many of the recommendations that they had. The issue of transparency and accountability is paramount for the Pennsylvania General Assembly. I had the good fortune in my short tenure at DCED over 3 years to actually establish the Office of Open Records, which for the first time made it necessary for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to actually provide public information upon request as opposed to requiring citizens to explain why it was public information. So I have an understanding of why that transparency and that accountability is critically important for the General Assembly. But the other thing that was important, I think, was the issue of transparency in the administrative expenditures of the General Assembly. And we have come to know that the General Assembly is sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars while we're in the middle of a deep recession. I think that there's an accountability missing there.
Okay, Frank?
Yes. We uncovered another department in Harrisburg. It's called the EPA. The Bonus Gate shows us that there is an Incumbency Protection Act. That money it was used to pay state employees to campaign for their state representatives, for their state senators. That's a squandering of the public trust. That's an absolute misuse of public funds. That's why I call it the Incumbency Protection Act, because they were using our money to get reelected. Now, that's an unfair advantage once you're in there and in that stream. It keeps out the opposition. It keeps out the competition. So absolutely, Bonus Gate was a long time in coming. We knew that these egregious offenses were occurring, and I applaud all those that were, Harrisburg certainly needs to be pushed and prodded to do the right thing. And Bonus Gate shows that. And when Attorney General Tom Corbett had the convictions, he came down on both Republicans and Democrats. And absolutely, I applaud that, because it doesn't matter which party you're in. If you're on the wrong side of the law, you should be prosecuted.
John, anything to add?
No, except that I agree. The fact of the matter is that there were real violations of the public trust.
Okay. The next question, we're going to continue along the lines of legislative reform, this time addressing ethics. Frank, you'll be the first respondent. What suggestions do you have to improve the ethics of members of the General Assembly? Would the proposed Commission on Public Integrity serve this function? Why or why not?
I'm not in favor of creating additional levels of bureaucracy in another department. We already have an ethics panel, an ethics commission that is not working. First off, in term limits, the people need to recognize and see when a good legislator is going bad. But if that doesn't happen, then when the ethics panel and commission meets, well, you know what? They have to have a little bit more teeth. We have a current ethics we have filings by independent individuals that have taken issue with, and I'll name him, Senator Bob Mello. Now, unfortunately, the ethics panel and commission has decided not to take any action on it, and I get that information from the Scranton Times. So, what we need to do is either A, get the right people in Harrisburg, B, get the right people on those ethics commissions, C, give them more authority, or you know what? It's easy. D, all of the above.
Tony.
The most important thing about the integrity and I guess the credibility of the Ethics Commission has to be whether or not, in fact, they have an objective, independent assessment of the conduct that they're bound to review, and that taxpayers have an open view to that assessment and could make an opinion about that assessment. I don't disagree with my opponent on the issue of who is policing this matter, and in fact, if the General Assembly has appointed members of their legislative body sitting on the commission, I think that raises question about the objectivity and the independence and the autonomy of their assessment of the conduct that might be brought in question. So the key for me is objective, independent stakeholders who can be trusted and who have a nonpartisan assessment of the conduct and could render judgment in a way that the taxpayers feel that's credible.
Frank, anything to add?
Yes, John brings up the point of appointed members. Sure, if you pick your own people, you know what? They will. There's an allegiance, no doubt. So, how we come about picking those people that will be on the Ethics Commission, perhaps it would be a lottery, but appointment should be barred.